incredible job in this community, providing us with all of the information and the auxiliary services associated with people who find themselves afflicted with medical challenge, particularly related to various cancers. And Bermuda has a very high incidence, as we would all admit, of cancer. It is pretty much unbelievable for the size of the population, comparatively speaking, on a per capita basis when you look at other jurisdictions, who will have much greater numbers, but percentage-wise, the ratio would definitely not be as it is here in Bermuda. I think we would be among the top tier of incidences where there are people afflicted with the challenge of managing cancers once they've been diagnosed. So, Colleen, welcome once again to the Airwaves of Magic. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Man, you are a busy, busy lady. I know that.
Busy.
Not a day goes by without you having to deal with something, some situation, whether it be an existing client or patient, or if it's someone that's brand new that has been shocked to the core because they've been diagnosed. And they may have been, very healthy without any symptoms, running, doing what they do. And all of a sudden they go for a medical checkup and results come back that need to be addressed.
Yeah. There's a lot of times that you don't have symptoms, or you have slight symptoms, and then you're like, oh, that's nothing.
Right.
And then,
And then there are those people that would be inclined to be in denial as well, right? Because they're eating right, they're doing the right things, but yet they still have, this challenge
well, sometimes it's genetic, right? You can do everything right, and it's just in your body. It's just going to happen. Your mother or father had cancer. It was in your genes. I know someone who, I think she said, actually, I saw her today. She said to say hi to you, Deucey.
Right.
She said, I think 6 of her siblings had cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when it is hereditary like that, is there anything that you could do in consideration of prevention by getting either an early test or diagnosis, or what are the options for people that have cancer, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in their family?
So I'm not a doctor. I'll start with that, or a nurse. I'm a social worker, but I've only ever heard of there is a pre-test for breast cancer that you can take if that's been in your family. And that's
the mammogram that would usually...
there's like a blood test.
Ah, okay.
I forget what it's
Something
called.
that's more advanced now.
And definitely if it's in your family, you get it, and they could tell you if you have the gene or not.
Okay. Just come a little closer to the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. So these are the kinds of things that you're dealing with on a daily basis.
Yes.
We would be remiss of us not to shout out to your team, because I know it's not just you.
No.
You have a team of people at PALS,
yes,
right?
And actually, because it's Nurses Month, I did invite one of my nurses who just emailed me and said, I am in St. George. I'm going to try to get there, but I don't know if I can get there.
Priorities,
I know. It's
right?
unfortunate. It happens all the time. We do have an amazing team that we can't, I definitely can't do it without. We have 7 nurses. We have Waynette Curtis. We have Charmaine Ross Barnett, Michaela Bean, Merlin Burgess, Kathy Fox, Roseanne Key, and then Julie Harrington is the nurse manager. We have Shamika Ingham, who's the social worker, and then we have 2 doctors, Dr. Alakani, and our part-time physician is Dr. Benson.
Big shout out to all of them.
All of them.
So what are the doctors' responsibility?
Medically treating the cancer.
Okay.
So, like, let's say you have a cold and you say, can you give me a prescription? No. Go to your GP or go to ER. But anything that's related to your cancer, our doctors can medically treat.
Okay.
And also help you understand, like, what the oncologist said or what someone else said to you. And they also are very helpful at the end of life. So at the end of life, the nurse and doctor will take turns, but someone will see you every day.
Right. Now, the progression part of it is something that most people, once they're diagnosed, and it seems to be active and not in remission or anything like that, they pretty much want to know what they should expect, right?
Yeah.
During the course and stages of the cancer progressing. doctors and or the nurses deal with that? That must be a difficult thing to.
They do. I think they can only say, I've dealt with so many people that have had this, and this is what theirs like, because everybody's journey is going to be different.
Sure.
I know that I've worked with Dr. Alicani, like we both worked at BHB together. I was at Agape with her, and everybody's question was, how long do I have? And she's always, I don't know. I can't tell you. Sometimes she'd say it might be days, it might be weeks. It's not going to be months.
Right.
No one can really determine that.
Exactly. And you have so many different cancers. There are those cancers that are extremely aggressive, and then there are those that are slow or a lot slower. Can you just say maybe some of the more aggressive cancers, if people have been diagnosed and they unfortunately have this strain of cancer, what precautions they should take or what they should consider based on your experience?
The only one that I know of that when I hear it, I think generally that it is not a good outcome, but I hope that something has been, the new meds are coming out and it's going to help, but pancreatic cancer, that tends to be fast, and I think it comes on with no symptoms.
And the thing with pancreatic cancer, because I've had a family member who has succumbed to that after surgery, to try and remove it, and that is a very high percentage of not surviving. But the pancreas is just a little small thing, like the size of a walnut, maybe, right?
Do we need it? Get it out.
Yeah. Do we really need it?
I think it does something. I think it filters stuff.
Something,
right?
Yeah. Wow. And maybe it's so aggressive because it's so small.
Yeah.
Is there a particular test for that? Or, like you said, it's no symptoms?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's blood work. Like, you start feeling sick and you go to the doctor, and I think a lot of the cancers are initially diagnosed through blood work, and then they will send you for a biopsy if there's a tumor.
And then PET scans as well. Now, I hear, cancer, you always hear it's going to be very painful when it gets to the later stages. But is that true with all cancers, or is some worse than others? And what might be, from your experience, the more aggressive and more painful cancers?
I think it depends. Yes, where it is. It depends on if you have wounds. But our goal is to try to make you as comfortable as possible. So I know we do give a lot of morphine, and just make the patient, not make them go unresponsive, but just make them comfortable, pain-free, so they can enjoy their last few days.
Right. Wow. Now, for the families, the support system that you provide is critical for some families, right?
Absolutely.
Because they don't know where to turn half the time. In situations where there might be someone in the household that's the breadwinner, and they suddenly have this challenge. Everything is scatterracked.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, okay, what do we do? So in a situation like that, not knowing, it would be advisable for people to get their personal affairs in order.
In order, yep. And one of the things I always remember that a social worker that worked with me at BHB, Richard Smith, he used to always tell the patients, make sure you get your family members' passwords. And I'm like, I didn't even think of that.
All right. For their devices and that kind of thing.
To get into stuff and be able to access stuff.
Sure.
There's a whole long list. And, I think definitely planning is key. I do know we have a patient that passed a couple years ago, and I know she doesn't mind us sharing this because she started Final Steps, but she had the most amazing plan that I've always loved, like make sure I don't have bad breath, make sure that my chin doesn't have any hair, so down to detail.
Wow.
I want this shirt, I want this. That makes everybody's life easier.
Yes.
Your kids don't have to think, how would you want this? What you want?
And it makes you more comfortable because your wishes are being respected and honored. Very, very important. Facilities. Now, we have Agape House. Usually when people are admitted there is when it seems as if they are terminal.
Yeah, I think generally they've reduced it now to 3. When I used to be there, I think it was 6 months, but now it's if you have less than 3 months.
Okay.
But more and more people, which is why we are so busy, more people are choosing to die at home.
Yeah.
And be comfortable and be in their own surroundings.
And that's where it's really important for them to contact you.
Mm-hmm,
at PALS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what are some of the services, in-home services, that PALS provide that people are really appreciative of?
Everything. No.
I can imagine it.
The nurse, like I said, the nurses, the doctor, and, some people don't want us to come to their home. They don't want their neighbors to know they have cancer and they're going to see it on our van.
Still a stigma.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately. So they can come to our office, or they can meet for coffee in town, or, sometimes the doctor and nurse go over to oncology if they're having an appointment over there.
Yeah.
But we can provide emotional support. We can provide any medical support. We can also refer to a nutritionist if you're like, I'm hungry, but I don't know what to eat. I don't feel good. So we use Catherine Burns a lot.
Okay.
We just, I have a patient that is one I'm very, very close to, and I'm actually going to go up to say goodbye to her in a little bit. But she always says walking through the door of PALS is like a hug. And that's what I love. That's what we're supposed to be, and that's what we want to be.
Yeah.
And
very comforting.
Yeah.
For those that would need the kind of attention and support that many, even within the family, aren't capable, even if they want to give it.
Right.
Because they may be going through levels of emotional trauma that makes it almost impossible for them to function normally, dealing with it, especially if it's something that's not expected. Because you got different kinds of situations. So one would be where you're diagnosed out of the blue. Another would be where you've been diagnosed early and you've gone into remission. And so everyone's hope and enthusiasm is up. And then all of a sudden it's a turnaround like that. It's another major challenge, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and that's why we've been offering a lot of support groups and different things, because, I always say, I don't think I realized how much cancer patients need to talk to other cancer patients.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of things they can't tell they don't want to tell their family. They can't tell their family.
Yeah.
Their friends don't understand. So when they're sitting in a group, it's amazing, like how much they can share with each other and how much support. I've had people stop me on the street saying, you don't know what you've done for my wife. Thank you so much.
Wow, yeah.
There was a gentleman that his wife made him go last week, and he said, I can't stop talking about this. It was amazing.
Nice.
And so,
it's kind of a relief where they can exhale a little bit, even though they're dealing with something that is going to have what might be considered a morbid or tragic end. It's dealing with the reality in a way where you can not only manage your own emotions, but by doing so, you are actually making that patient more comfortable as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, their condition could be exacerbated because they're stressed over your stress.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be a burden or consider to be a burden. And that's where you guys would come in to play as well, to kind of alleviate that kind of thought conscientiously on the mind of the patient.
Right, correct. So when it is the end of life, so when our doctor deems there's probably less than 3 months, we are able to put in caregivers into the home that we pay for. PALS pays for it. We are able to claim it back from insurance, a little bit of it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, what we say is family should be the family.
Yes.
Don't be the caregiver. Just be there enjoying the time and let caregivers come in and do that.
Wow.
So we are able to provide that, which is often a big help to family and a relief,
awesome.
Because people don't sleep. They're trying to stay awake to watch their loved one, and if you have a caregiver, you get a little bit of reprieve.
Now, depending on the personality of individuals in the home, the emotional turmoil. If they're already got maybe a personality where it's extroverted, kind of contentious, there could be an impact on them that either humbles them or it exacerbates the personality, where they become a little bit more aggressive, maybe even arrogant in the way a loved one's being taken care of, because they just don't know how to vent or where to go for their own emotional and mental stability. Do you make referrals for people based on behavior or suggestions for them to get professional intervention?
Absolutely. We actually recently had a situation where someone was having a hard time with his father's illness, and the social worker, Shamika, said, you can come see me whenever you want, call me whenever you want. Or we also often refer to MASK, which is men counseling men.
Oh, right.
And so we use them for a lot of things, especially for men, because, they're more comfortable and they'll speak more freely with another man.
Themselves, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we use them a lot, or we use, various other agencies on the island for individual or family therapy.
Okay. Children. You got the children who would need intervention to cope with the kind of trauma that they might be going through as well. And if that's the case, that's a whole nother.
Absolutely. I would always refer children to Solstice, because I know, Riley, there's a few people over there, but they do art therapy is their specialty, and for children specifically. Yeah. So they're very good at that, and they deal with a lot of children, maybe even family center. There's a lot of people that do only specialize in children. So I would.
And then, have to get into the school for other people that they're interacting with during the course of their day, so that they're going to understand if there is any kind of behavioral change. This could be as a result of what they're experiencing in the home.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if I'm sure that at some point we've had to talk to a counselor and just say, just so you know, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. But it definitely is a help, because, the counselors at school need to know, so that they
can be sensitive to the situation and watch for telltale signs that would suggest there could be need for some intervention. Mm-hmm. Now, that's one side. Another side is children who would be afflicted with cancer.
Yeah.
Do we have a large population of children in Bermuda?
So we don't, but I've often been told that children that are sick will oftentimes go to Boston Children's or one of the children's hospitals and not even come through us. So we might not know about it. We sometimes do. I mean, we had a couple years, 3 years ago, this young boy that was at Summersfield. The whole school decided they were walking for him during our walk, and he passed away 2 days before our walk, and it was heartbreaking. I was like, oh my goodness, all these kids. But they were amazing, and they were all so positive, and his family, his father is now on our board, and he's amazing. He's right now in South Africa running his 7th marathon of the year.
Oh, wow.
Big runners, but I think that it's difficult. It's difficult losing a child.
Of course. And, being active like this father is, for example, is what might be termed as a level of therapy that helps with them kind of not becoming subjected to the loss as much as they might otherwise, because they've got something that preoccupies them until they may go 180 degrees and in their quiet moment go through a grieving process, as we would all do from time to time, having lost anyone that's very close to us.
Well, that's what, for the marathon on Friday, there was 113 people running for PALS.
Yes.
So there was one group of 110 that were all running for Emma Norman, who passed away a year ago.
And some were walking as well.
Yep. Right? Derek Hendrickson was running for his mom, Kim Hendrickson, who passed a couple of years ago. We had a patient, Lucy Hollis, who was running for herself and for Emma.
Wow.
And then we had Michael McDonnell, who was running for his wife, Catherine, who passed away in January.
Wow.
They've all raised amazing funds, but to them, it just felt good.
Yeah.
They were doing something for their loved one, but also giving back to PALS.
Of course.
And it was great.
And our condolences to those that have suffered the loss of a very close one in their family or a friend, and for those that are afflicted with cancer and still, going above the call of duty to help themselves deal with it in such ways is very good, because at the end of the day, it is a self selfless act when you do something like that, even in memoriam, because the residual benefit is you're raising funds to assist in the provisioning of services that PALS provides.
Well, and I think it's, again, many people don't know the extent of what we offer and what we do. And so once we've been in your life, they just never leave us.
So why don't you reiterate
what we do?
Yes, I think that would be good.
So oftentimes I try to tell people that we should be in your life as soon as you get diagnosed. There's still doctors out there that do say, oh, you don't need PALS yet, but we're not only end of life. There are so many more people living with cancer now that we're trying to improve quality of life while you're living with cancer.
Okay.
So as soon as the doctor says to you, you have cancer, the first thing you should think is, I need a PALS referral. And then, we can talk you through it, we can help you, we can get you into our programs. And that's like a part of what we do. Our focus changes all the time because, like I said, as more and more people are living with it, we're now learning how to manage it better and not just do the end of life stuff. But basically, we can provide any support you need. People never know. Like, you lose your hair, we have a bunch of wigs. You have really dry skin from your chemo. The doctor has this amazing the cream stuff that she gets in England. There's amazing. All these tips and tricks.
And you don't think about those kind of things until you're facing it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because if you have not had any experience with someone, for instance, who's had to undergo chemotherapy, you're not going to know what the residual fallout is, especially with regard to women losing their hair. Men, it's kind of a style.
Yeah.
So, people might not just automatically assume that you have an illness if you're a man. And all of a sudden you got hair one day and the next day you don't. But if you're a woman, everyone is going to look. And even if they don't say anything, they're going to be wondering, well, what happened? And they're not going to want to ask because obviously they want to respect your dignity. And but that doesn't make it any more of an easy thing to deal with. So, for instance, a coworker who may cherish their privacy, they may come to work one day and they got hair. The next day they got a wig. People need to be sensitive to that because the first thing someone who is not necessarily might say, wow, what you doing changing up your hairstyle? I love your natural hair. And all of a sudden they break down because, it just reiterates that they got a serious problem. So people need to be, when you see certain signs or symptomatic changes of lifestyle, sensitive to that and careful to the best of their ability on what they say and how they say it to the individual, right?
True. I never know what to say. I remember I was trying to think, my nurse manager told me a good thing to say because I saw someone one time and I was like, I don't know how to say, do you have cancer? Do you just change your... But she told me and now I wish I could remember what it was. Right. It was a good line, though.
Okay. Because some people might just say, it's none of your business. Why you ask me that?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Because they're upset. They haven't really dealt with it yet. They may be still a little bit in denial. And hoping that there's been a false positive. Do we get much of that nowadays with all the technology? Very seldom?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there might be, like, your first test might be maybe minimal. I wouldn't say it's a lot.
Now, some people would consider, even if they are believers in the science and they get tested, they decide, I'm going to get another opinion. They're going to get the same test and hope for a different result. Sometimes,
like if you get a test here and then you go to the States and we don't have the test, they're going to give people will go for a second opinion. But unfortunately, most insurances don't cover a second opinion.
Okay.
Which is sad, but, unless there's a way to justify why you think this is really important, then you would have to pay for it yourself.
Depending on your coverage, because there are tiers of coverage. Now, insurance is a huge situation. We have the merger. I would have thought that would have made it a lot easier with more benefits because of the consolidation, because insurance really is a numbers game. And one thing that has been challenging, particularly in the Western world, where insurance coverage is something that's really, really significantly important in one's life, particularly during their working years, is that cost that they have to bear. Now, in the United States, you've got hundreds of millions of people, and elsewhere. Bermuda, you don't even have 100,000. So what people don't necessarily understand as far as insurance is concerned is that as a result of it being all about the numbers, you need a huge pool of people contributing. If you don't have that, what do you do?
Yeah.
How do you cover it?
Yeah, raise costs, raise premiums.
You don't have a choice, because it's not like the insurance company can negotiate with the professional medical practitioners to say, you know what, you can't charge me this much for the operation or for the visit. And it has that knock-on effect. So when you don't have the sheer numbers contributing to the pool, it's a very challenging thing, particularly for clients that have long-term illnesses.
Absolutely. And I know, some depending on what your illness is, sometimes there's even a cap.
Yeah.
We'll only pay $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but it goes very fast.
Not in today's world. Yeah. I hate to say it, but it seems that, everything is profit-driven and profit-driven and profit-driven. And there's not, in my humble opinion, going to be much that changes that in the world we live in. Yeah,
I agree.
It's very sad when you really think about it. When we've got all of this land mass, enough to feed everybody in the world, healthy food, but because of the profit motive, the scarcity versus the demand creates the rationale for the provider who has access to the resource to determine what it's worth.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much it's needed. If you can't afford it, even if you need it, you may not get it. And that's what people are facing. And that's why there was this big situation, particularly in the United States, and something that we're facing here in Bermuda with respect to healthcare and the cost of healthcare.
Yep. And medication.
Thank God the government has seen fit and found funding to supplement, particularly with respect to seniors, with us becoming a more aged population, to provide the access to prescription coverage.
Yeah.
It's
minimal, but it is.
It's something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something. And hopefully each year it will, depending on how well our fiscal challenges are managed, increase, even if it's just incrementally. But every little bit helps, particularly when you need it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, because some of the chemo medications are like $10,000 a month. It's expensive.
What?
Absolutely. It's a lot. And, we had a patient that was overseas who needed a medication, and they were going to charge $10,000, and her copay would have been $4,000. So she called us and said, "Would you help with this?" And we're like, "Well, let me call CG Pharmacy over here." Over here it was $900. So I said, "I'll pay $900. I'll fly the medication. I'll bring the medication to you, and it's still cheaper than what we would pay in the U.S." So yeah, it's just there's such a fluctuation in pricing, and I just don't know. I don't know how it's so. And I don't know anything about BF&M and All Shores and how they're doing this, why they're trying to make you all go to one pharmacy, but maybe they're trying to get the best deal possible. I don't know.
Well, I that's something that I believe is very challenging, and I think they kind of backed off a little bit about that. Yeah. Because it would border on being completely unfair when there could be an alternative source to provide you the medication you need at a more competitive price.
Right. More regulation.
Absolutely. Because if you are the insurer and you're running the pharmacy as well, then you've got inside intelligence. Number one, you're going to know how to price what you're providing to maybe supplement what you can't get in premium. If the regulators say, you can't charge that much for premium, I don't know how it's regulated.
Yeah.
But when you've got that kind of a monopoly, it does not bode well for the end line user, which would be the consumer. There's no way, because they have no alternative source.
Right.
And then the other thing is that when you do something like that, you are completely disrespecting the client who has developed a relationship with a pharmacy or a pharmacist.
Yep. Or is housebound in St. George and can't get up to somewhere in town.
Exactly. So all of these kinds of things, I think, we're taking into consideration, because usually when you're in business and you're driven by, number one, having to meet your liabilities or your overheads, that's one thing. But after that, you're in business to make money. Now, how much money is the question?
Right.
What is enough and what is not enough?
Yeah.
And that's where, I always have this quote that greed and avarice is often been cloaked in the cap and gown of ambition. And when it comes to pure money, there's not always honest brokers around the table. Everyone is trying to negotiate to get as much as they can, or the bigger bang for their buck, or the biggest return on their investment. And in a capitalistic society, that's the way it's supposed to work. And that's how it does work. And if you are not down with that game, then you're either going to get caught out or caught up.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you won't be a going concern anymore, to say the least, a growing concern. So the dictates of the system sometimes is what subjects you to not necessarily being as empathetic or compassionate, because you kind of like move that to the side.
Yeah.
I got to stay in business.
Here's my focus.
Here's how I got to focus, because otherwise I won't even be able to provide the service. So it's what I'm saying, a double-edged sword, or a two-sided coin. So you just can't, out of the blue, be completely adversely critical. You got to be constructively critical, because these people who are providing the services for a cost, they're people too.
Yeah.
And lots of times, if they look in the mirror and ask themselves the question, well, if I was that patient, would I want what they're asking me for?
Yeah.
I think the question would be, the answer would be yes. You know? So this is the kinds of things that we find as flaws in systems, particularly under what is the norm in a capitalist society, a society that is based on free enterprise. You try and get while the getting is good, and then hopefully your contingencies to have a little put away for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Now that's not just for the individual, but for corporations as well. Now, your in-home services, are you there on the per-need basis for a length of time, or is your hours capped? Like
our caregivers?
Yeah, your caregivers.
That we put in?
Yeah.
So usually the doctor and the nurse, speaking with the family, will determine how many hours.
Hold on, caller. Yeah.
So initially it might be up to 8 hours a day.
Okay.
But then moving more towards the end, it's oftentimes 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they need to have somewhere to rest and sleep in the home?
No. No, it'll be different. We use an agency.
You do a shift.
Yeah.
Very, very well thought through. Good afternoon, Magic 102.7. You're on air with Colleen DeGrilla from PALS. Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
I just wanted to say, there's my trials and tribulations that I'm going through right now. I just want to thank PALS for all that they do.
Okay.
I didn't know what your topic was about. I was calling you on a different a medical thing. But now that I see you talking about PALS, I hang up and we'll talk. It was all medical and capitalism and stuff.
Okay.
So I'll give you a call later.
Okay.
My mom's suffering from cancer, and Pal's been just a lifesaver.
Oh, wow,
and
that's great.
I love it.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
I'll continue to listen.
Okay, thank you so much for your call.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. That's what I'm sure fills your heart with joy.
Absolutely.
When there is someone who's a family member of a patient that appreciates what it is that you're doing. Magic 102.7, good afternoon, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. This is Mr. Blakeney.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and how are you?
I'm good.
I see you got a good friend of mine on.
Okay.
Yes, don't worry, I lost 6 sisters with that.
Wow.
And it's always a pleasure talking to you, but my son said he'll do my music for me that you were supposed to give me.
Oh, I was supposed to give you some music?
That was that music when you first come on.
Oh.
Miss Ducey.
Oh, I got it. Maurice Gordon.
I know.
Yeah,
but
you know what? I'm gonna put it on a USB drive for you.
Yes, and when you're in love, you forget everything. But they got my good friend on.
You're in love, Ducey? I didn't know.
But have a good day. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Bye, honey.
Because I never get you anywhere. And honey, and you be a good girl.
I know, that's so boring, but I will.
Yes, and you be good.
Thank you.
All right, honey.
Bye.
Nice talking.
Take care.
Bye.
And you can come by and pick up your USB drive. I'm going to put it on there today and leave it in the office for you.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Now, how much is that, because nothing's free today.
The best things in life are free, so there you go.
Yes, I'm just teasing you. So thank you. And
You're
you
welcome.
And you and your staff and your wife and everybody. I love you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, honey.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah. So, these services, we began to talk about it, but you didn't go through the litany of services that you provide. I know it's a lot, but just give us some of the main ones.
So we would go in the home for wound care or just to check on you. Sometimes when you go to oncology and you're getting chemotherapy, they'll put a port in you, and so our nurse will have to come flush the port, which means just like...
So explain chemotherapy, because I'm not aware of that process.
So you would go to BHB, to the oncology department, and it's like an IV drip kind of.
It has to go straight into the bloodstream?
Yeah, and it's for a couple hours. It's almost like a dialysis thing.
Wow.
But there's new drugs, which are the chemo pills, and you don't have to do all that.
Okay.
But the pills are what's the $10,000 that's not covered by insurance.
Wow.
And chemo in the hospital is covered by insurance. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder why the pills are so expensive.
I don't know.
Because if you're talking about...
I mean, it's probably that expensive for the liquid, but I wonder why will you pay for the liquid but not the pills?
Yeah, it doesn't jive. And the thing is that with hundreds of millions of people around the world, it's not just Bermuda, that would need chemotherapy, you would think that those numbers would help drive the cost down, unless the science and to develop, or not develop, but to produce the pills is a lot. But I can't see it with the technology these days.
I don't think... I might be wrong, but I don't think that the pills have been around for that long yet.
Yeah.
But they should be starting to come down.
Oh, yeah.
The price, because it is.
And then there's always the option generically, where you have the generics.
I think.
But some medications, I suppose, are not available generically.
Right. I think some are not.
Right. The intravenous kind of process for the chemotherapy, so that is something that's static for as long as you need to be taking the chemotherapy, that must be in.
I think, and I think that people go like every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So they'll go in, they'll put it through their port, which is usually up around your neck.
Okay.
And then you keep that thing in you, but not with the chemo. That's when the nurse would go flush it after certain days.
Okay.
And then you go back and they put the chemo back in there.
Okay. Well, is it painful?
I would think.
Taking the chemo?
Probably not but I would think having this thing
there is
I don't know.
uncomfortable.
I'm a baby. I don't like pain.
I don't either. Oh, mercy me. Oh, wow. So that's, the wounds and that kind of thing. What cancers more likely to require wound treatment?
Breast cancer.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And then there's like sometimes there's, well, some tongue cancers, but you couldn't have a bandage. There's oftentimes places you can't have a bandage.
Right. So with a tongue cancer, we have much of that in Bermuda? That's rather rare, isn't it?
I've seen a few cases, yeah. And then, and so what they call head and neck, right? So head and neck, there's a lot, I've been told, in pockets of Bermuda, like around the dump or different areas that I don't know if it's environmental, but that there is...
more concentrated number of people with
in
those kinds
areas,
of... In Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any request from you by the Ministry of Health to get data and statistics?
So not me. That would probably be Bermuda Cancer and Health, and they have what's called a tumor board, and they're kind of trying to create or further develop the cancer register of Bermuda.
Okay.
So that is in the works.
That should have been done years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it's being done now, because that is a very significant consideration.
Yeah.
If there is a concentration of specific cancers that have been diagnosed among people in a particular area of the country, then that would warrant some level of investigation to see what might be the source of them contracting the disease.
Right.
Because cancer just doesn't, it's not like a virus where you get contaminated because somebody touched you today.
Right.
It's something that grows. Which means it is something that is environmental.
Correct.
Impacting you.
Now, I know you said at the beginning about the higher percentage in Bermuda, and I've always been told we do not have a higher percentage.
Really?
We have the same as the rest of the world. However, because we know everybody, it seems like
that way.
Like I was thinking, when I lived in Boston, I didn't know my neighbor. If they had cancer, I wouldn't know. But here, you would know.
You know, yeah.
And so maybe it just seems like it's more.
Okay.
I don't know. This is what I'm told by the statisticians.
Well, we want to know because it's very important for us to know, because when we go away, and I'm a survivor, and every single time that I've been for intervention abroad, the most common comment is that, what's going on in Bermuda? There's an inordinate number of people that have cancer in your small island.
Yeah. But is it that everyone has to go away because there may be a shortage at the hospital, so we're sending everybody away? So it seems like to the Leahy people or to Brigham that, wow, we're getting so many Bermudians right now. I don't know.
I don't either, but it'll be interesting to find out. And that's where data is so very important, right? Because it's all about the numbers at the end of the day.
Yep.
And correlating that with what might be a source of the cause of what is seemingly a very high incidence among our population.
I mean, there's a lot of things we still don't do here. Having the radiation unit has been a tremendous help, and many people have been able to stay on island, but there's still certain radiations we don't do here.
PET scans.
Yeah, PET scans.
Yeah.
I've been told someone is trying to bring one in, so that would be great.
Yeah.
But they're, these pieces of equipment are millions of dollars.
And then that's going to be a knock-on impact for the cost to get the test. So even taking into consideration the airline ticket accommodation to go get the scan abroad, here in Bermuda it's going to be exponentially high just because of what it costs to acquire the equipment and also to operate it. And then if you don't have enough need for the test, because a PET scan is when you really need to find out if there's cancer anywhere in your body.
Right.
And a lot of times, if the cancer is isolated and it has been diagnosed correctly, you don't necessarily need a PET scan.
Yeah. I always feel everyone should have a PET scan. Every 5 years, we should just get a...
No, that would make it a viable investment, right? If it was something that was, going to be utilized like that. But that's something that an investor has to take into consideration as well.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that, you have the insurance companies that may feel levels of apprehension, which I think is cause for concern, because it speaks to the integrity of the medical practitioners. When an insurer would suggest that a doctor is prescribing too much of something, particularly if it's a test, how do you eliminate concern without being tested?
Right. No, absolutely. I agree.
So I think that's a level of disingenuousness because, again, the money involved. Those tests, some of them are not inexpensive.
Yeah.
You got the MRIs, you got the CAT scans. So who's supposed to determine what would be appropriate? The insurer who's paying for it?
Right.
Or the person who's diagnosing and has not enough evidence?
Correct.
Because the symptoms aren't necessarily definitive. It could be, it could not be.
Right.
So the test will, the test will confirm one way or the other. I mean, how do you challenge that, really?
Yeah.
And like I say, you look in the mirror and say, you know what? If I were the patient, what would be my desire? What would be something that would make me feel comfortable?
Right. Yeah.
That I am being diagnosed correctly or being prescribed the correct medicine or the correct intervention. You know, these are the kinds of things that make it sometimes very difficult depending on what side of the table you're sitting on because there are different interests.
Right. Well, and I think people should be able to have the right to advocate to their insurer and say, all right, I know you don't agree with this, but for me, like, I don't know, I've had cancer throughout my whole life. I need a PET scan. So, you know, hopefully they're a little more flexible. I mean, they keep sending out these emails that they're going to be more flexible. They're going to be more person-centered.
You know what?
This is all yours, but...
and I believe them. It's a very small community. When people have one bad experience, the whole family knows. Pretty soon, if they aren't sensitive in a reasonable way to particular situations, everybody's going to know. The one thing that makes it difficult for the consumer is that if it's just a one-stop shop without other alternatives, where do you go?
Right.
Yep. So that's another danger. So if they say no and there's nowhere else to go, then what do you do?
Yeah. Right.
So it's some really dangerous things. And in the United States, certain practices are not allowed because it would be bordering, if not certainly, considered antitrust.
Yeah. Right. We should be following some standards somewhere.
Of best practice.
Yeah.
Not to say that we're not, but when you have these kind of developments for reasons that the corporate board would decide is in the best interest of the corporation, then you have to be concerned, and that's where regulators are very, very important, so that the consumer, who's going to be the beneficiary or not, would have their best interests looked out for.
Yep.
Because many people don't feel comfortable advocating, they don't feel comfortable challenging, and they just succumb to what they have been told. A person like yourself, me, someone else, we're going to fight until the very end if we fight on principle and believe that there's something that should be taken into consideration on merit. Not where you're going to try and fleece somebody. Absolutely.
Right.
You know, but there are many in the community who don't have that confidence or comfort level to ask questions even. Out of just concern when they've been told something.
They just go, okay.
And then complain about it. And then a family member says, well, you should have this, that, knowing quite well that person's personality is not up to that. And then, of course, along with that is the whole stress level. When you're told no and you're expecting yes, and you don't see where you've got another alternative for someone who you're confiding in to say, here's what I'm experiencing, I don't know what to do, for them to say, well, this is what you should have done, and da-da-da, that's a no-winner.
Yeah, doesn't help.
It doesn't help no. at all. And so we have these conversations, Colleen, because I believe they're very helpful to the listener who may have experienced certain things or maybe about to experience certain things, and they would know, here's where I can go, here's what I need to maybe consider, just because I've heard a conversation that I've not been privy to before. And if something, God forbid, should happen to me, what would I do? Right. There are many people maybe asking that right now. If I were to be diagnosed tomorrow, what would I do? Right. Where would I go? Yeah. So this is very, very important as a community service to edify people on what options are available in this community to assist them.
Yeah, and there's so many. We often feel we don't have resources here, but we do have some great resources here. Yeah, and that third sector, they do an incredible job. Absolutely. I think during COVID, that showed a lot because we saved, we did a lot of the food insecurities and the medication coverage and different things like that. People that weren't going to their doctors the PALS nurses were still seeing you, different things like that. Yeah. Definitely.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, our in-studio guest this afternoon has been the lovely Colleen DeGrilla of PALS. I thoroughly enjoy whenever we have the opportunity to have the conversation, because we always have in-depth conversations that I'm sure you listening appreciate, because even if you're not impacted, you may know someone, a friend, a family member, and will be able to encourage them to reach out, because there are a lot of us that might be afflicted, and we want to keep it as our best kept secret because of the stigma.
Yeah.
And you might be that person that can confide in the individual or have influence for them to get the kind of intervention that would serve them and help make them a little bit more comfortable and confident about managing their situation a little better than they might otherwise. Yeah, very, very important.
And reach out. You don't have to be a patient to call us and ask questions.
Yeah, so, and that's anonymous, because nobody's going to know who's on the other end of the phone. So why don't you give us those the information of how you could be contacted, just for a question, a query, or any feedback.
Okay, you can call us at 236-7257. You can email us at info@pals.bm or go on our website at www.pals.bm.
Magic 102.7, good afternoon. You are on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to say that, Miss English.
Yes.
You have found your little niche. You're enjoying what you are doing. I can tell.
Thank you.
You have hit the right spot. Thank you so much for helping so many people.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
And you too.
What you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Well, that's a great note to end it on at 6 minutes before the hour. It's great having you, and I look forward to our next conversation, Colleen.
Thank you very much.
God bless you and everything that you do, and your team of expertise, or experts that have the expertise, doing what they're doing in this community, like the last caller had given you kudos for. I think it's well earned and well deserved, and a community service that who knows where we would be without. So for those of you who might be financially well endowed,
yes, please,
and you've taken care of your family in your estate planning, and you still have a few pennies left over, PALS is an organization that is not only credible, but they have manifested in the services they provide why they are significantly important in this community, doing the work that they do. So please think about them.
Yes.
And if you can donate, please don't hesitate.
Absolutely. Okay. You can do it online, or it's our tag day this Friday and Saturday. So you call us if you want to. We have a couple slots left, so call us if you want to give 2 hours, or just pop some money in the bucket.
And where are those tag day locations?
Fridays is in town, so it would be like supermarket, shopping center. I don't know. All the marketplaces. Okay. I think English Market, one in front of the mechanics building. There's a bookstore. And then on the weekend, it's all outside grocery stores.
Okay, like Lindo's.
Saturday,
places like that. Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, Colleen,
Thanks
have
for
yourself a
having me.
wonderful evening, of
Thank
course.
you.
And I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you.
God bless you and all those that are on your team doing such good work.
Thank you.
Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.
It was about the U.S. and universal insurance and stuff. But what was so funny was one of the which is guests or persons on the show.
Okay, yeah.
They were talking about the amount of money it would take for America to have universal insurance, and the question was asked what it was forced or imposed on you. And to my shock, the caller said they could always transfer their wealth to Bermuda. And I nearly fell on the floor, because what that says to us about our morality. It really made me think of the services that we provide and my own personal morality. The show went on. That could be just a hypothetical.
Yeah.
But
well, Bermuda.
We can't get universal for our own people, but we would allow people to come to Bermuda and so that they don't have to do it in the other country. But we wanted that. We want good health care. It's just
so let me clearly understand. The caller, the person that made the comment, were they speaking on behalf of a corporation or individual estate?
I can't remember. I don't know all.
Okay.
I wasn't really looking at it, and I didn't even expect Bermuda to come up. But it was really the pros and cons on universal health care. And they were saying the billions it would take, and who don't work in America, who don't pay taxes, and who smokes, who does crack, who does this, who does that, cancer, all the stuff they talked about. Those and the person on there who I think they had something to do with insurance and they were saying how they just couldn't afford universal health care and then Bermuda's name came up in it. And it just got me. I didn't get to see.
Well, I do know, as far as Bermuda is concerned with regard to estate planning, that kind of thing, we have a very viable option for international people of means to set up their trusts in Bermuda. Bermuda does really good business in the trust sector internationally. That's outside of international business. We are pretty well known for that.
This person was saying we could basically just go hide our money in Bermuda. And then, we wouldn't be subjected to have to pay for universal health care.
Well, you know what?
In the United States.
Could also,
I don't want to take it any further than that because I can't remember everything about it. But it was a gut punch to me.
And see, you got to be careful. But you got to be.
That's our business.
Yeah, but you got to be careful about feeling a gut punch because, see, as I had played that piece before about Bermuda in the context of Bermuda, where much, if not 85% of it at least, was pretty accurate. Bermuda is often put in the category as a tax haven. And depending on what one would describe as a tax haven, I suppose we could be open to be described as such. But Bermuda's model is based on high net worth protection mechanisms through insurance instruments to protect people that would be exposed to potential liability. Like you heard in that piece, where if there's forest fires in California, an earthquake in Japan, that's where Bermuda's model supersedes many other models that have tax regimes.
I'm quite aware of Bermuda's contribution as far as insurance.
But it's not like a jurisdiction where you could just.
That wasn't my. Yeah. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. Yes, people who come to Bermuda and get insurance, and yes, I think a lot of disasters. We've been the number one. In 9/11, they say how much Bermuda paid out at that particular time.
Correct.
So I'm not disputing any of that.
Yeah.
But I'm just anyway. That was a gut punch for me.
Right. So my comment in response was kind of to point out that this person may have used Bermuda as one of those jurisdictions, but the reality is that it would not be so easy based on our regulatory framework to hide money like some other places where you could go and offload your money in ways that would not be illegal in those jurisdictions. You would not be able to do that in Bermuda quite as easily. And people often...
We can agree to disagree. I'll leave the conversation.
Okay.
My family just walked in the door.
Okay. All right. Take care.
We can agree to disagree on that, and we can pick up again one day.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for your call. Bye. Yeah, my point is that the person, they might know something that I don't know, but the experts does know. So I'm not saying that I'm absolutely right in my assumptions or presumptions for that matter. But often people, when you talk about tax havens or tax evasions versus tax avoidance, tax evasion is something that America has big problems with. But to avoid taxes, that's quite acceptable, depending on how you avoid the tax under the law. Evasion is a whole different thing. Money laundering would come under evasion and that kind of thing. Avoidance could come under dealing with the international business companies, where you don't go to a state farm or some other onshore insurer. You come to Bermuda and you set up your own pure captive company, which would be separate but a subsidiary, pretty much, but operated as a pure insurance company in Bermuda, so that you avoid having to pay taxes and control your premium dollars that would otherwise go to a state farm. It goes to your own insurance company. So let's say, for instance, you are a manufacturer of Chinaware, and you go to State Farm, and they give you a premium quote of $1 million for X amount of coverage. And over 10 years, you've only had a loss because there's been a fire and one of your factories got burnt up a bit, and you had a $500,000 claim in that 10-year period. It means that State Farm collected on premiums $9,500,000. So your corporate board says, hey, why don't we pay a salary to some experts, set up our own captive, our own insurance company that just insures our liabilities. If we would have done that over the last 10 years, we would have had $9,500,000 in Bermuda, where we could reinvest, once meeting our solvency margins, anywhere in the world to get a return on that separate pool of money without it having gone, and we have no control over it after it's gone to the onshore insurer. In a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. On the captive side, and then you could rent a captive where you don't even need to set up in Bermuda. You could just rent a captive. Depending on the level of exposure you could be subjected to as potential liability. Then you have the reinsurer that insures the insurers, and they come in different layers. So if you have, let's say, $10 billion to be insured, one insurer might take $3 billion and cede off some more to another insurer and cede off to another reinsurer. And that's how it works. And as it reaches certain levels is when the insurers carrying the amount above kicks in all the way. In a nutshell, kind of, based on my understanding of how it works on a macro scale. So that's what we do in Bermuda. And that's why we can indemnify, and indemnity means just putting the person, or not the person, the corporation, the company that experienced the loss back to where they were before the loss occurred. That's indemnification. And that's just on a basic principle. Now, in local insurance, property and casualty, like say if you are going to a local insurer and you are going to, let's say, insure all of the contents of your home together with the property itself, many policies will give you what they call new for old. So they will not apply the principle of depreciation. So let's say you got a sofa and the sofa is 10 years old and it gets completely destroyed in a fire. At one time, that 10-year-old couch would be depreciated, let's say even if it's 2.5% or 3% each year of the 10 years. So if you bought it for $1,000 and each year it depreciated 2%, then over that period of time, when you experience the couch being burnt up at the house, you get $200-300 or whatever. That would be it. But now they have policies where it's new for old. They don't worry about how old it is. Refrigerator, stove, couch set, whatever. If you have a new for old policy under your contents insurance, that means whatever it costs to replace is what you'll get to buy it. Unless there's a deductible or an excess, which means of a claim, the first amount of dollars, which will be stated in your policy, you'll have to bear yourself. So let's say it's a $500 deductible and you have a $4,000 claim, then you're only going to get $3,500. That's kind of how it works. Similarly, in car insurance and motor insurance and that kind of thing as well. Insurance is a very interesting thing. You don't want to even think about it until you have the unfortunate circumstance of needing it. When you need it, oh boy, is it a good thing to have. Do you know what I mean? They say, it's better to be safe than sorry. And that's one of the reasons why it makes sense for those of you, particularly those who have properties, to make sure that your property is adequately insured. Otherwise, average could be applied. And average is a principle of not depreciation, but indemnifying you on the amount that would be appropriate to the term of the policy. So, or the term within the policy. So, if your house is worth $500,000 and you insure it and think, well, I'm cool, I'm going to insure it for $250,000. Well, your house is half insured. So if you have a $10,000 claim, you're only going to get 50% of that claim. The other thing is that the insurance is not based on the value of your house commercially. In other words, whatever the market rate is. So let's say you can build a house for $300,000, and you got friends and masons and carpenters, and you got it done for $300,000, right? But the house is worth $1 million. The insurance value of the house is what it would cost on building that house as it stood. Let's say it was a complete loss, earthquake, and you lost the whole thing. That house value, the insured value, would be roughly based on the square footage of what it cost to build the house. So whatever the cost per square foot to build your house, if it's 3,000 square feet and it's $400 or $300 or $200 per square foot, that is what equates to the value that you should insure the house for, not for the retail value or what you could get it on the open market at market rate. So if you could sell your house for $3 million, it doesn't mean it has to be insured for $3 million because you think that's what it's worth if you were to sell it. What it's worth is what it costs to build at whatever the square footage cost is. $200 a square foot, whatever. So it makes sense for many to make sure your house is adequately insured, because most times we build our homes so well in Bermuda because of Bermuda's building codes. It's never or very seldom going to be a complete loss unless it's a catastrophic calamity or what is known as a fundamental loss, where you lose every doggone thing. And lots of times, like say if it was an earthquake that hit and half the houses in the country just crumbled, then that would be considered more fundamental loss, and potentially the government will have to kick in and subsidize to some degree if it's that catastrophic. I don't know. I'm just saying. And you have exclusions also under insurance contract. And then you have endorsements. I don't know today if they still do it, but a burst water pipe, that kind of thing would be endorsed. Or sometimes, maybe now, it is actually included under your home insurance cover. But these are the kinds of things that you should ask your insurer about so that you get a fundamental understanding. And that way, we'll know why you're paying what you're paying to cover what needs to be covered, so that in the event of loss, you're fully aware. So you have things such as windstorm, and usually windstorm has an excess. So if you got a claim for, let's say, $1,000, the excess might be $1,200 on windstorm. Let's just say, hypothetically. And if that's the case, that means you got to come out of pocket for that whole $1,000 damage, because the excess, the first portion of the claim you have to pay, is beyond the damage you suffered. So it really makes sense for people who are homeowners, whoever your insurer is, to have a conversation and talk to them and ask questions, because many don't want to read the insurance policy. There are terms that you will not be familiar with, because there are terms in insurance policies I'm not necessarily familiar with, and sometimes I need clarification because it could be a little ambiguous. Like, in other words, it could be taken one way or the other. It's not as specific that would be commonly understood. And that's when you talk to the insurance expert, the underwriter, and ask them, how much do I have to pay on each and every claim? What is excluded? What is covered? It's very important. And then if you are, let's say, someone who's had your home insured with an insurance company for 40, 50 years, and you have your insurance cover, but you're not got it completely covered for the amount it should be, and you're like maybe 3/4 covered on what it actually should be covered for, but you got this relationship over 40 years, and you could say, last year I paid X amount for my premium. I thought it was the same this year. Even though I got the bill, I didn't really pay attention. I just came in and just paid whatever. And nobody told me that, the premium had gone up by X amount, blah, blah, blah. And geez, I wish, I wish I would have just thought about it. And I didn't. Well, the insurer might say, don't worry, Mr. Smith, Mr. Joe Public, we're going to take care of you. But you're going to have to fully cover for the renewal of the policy. And they would call that settlement an ex gratia settlement, meaning that they did not have an obligation to completely cover the full damage that you suffered. They could have applied the average principle, but they didn't because of the relationship. It's completely the prerogative of the insurer to consider on merit whether they're going to do that or not. They quite well may not, even if you've been insured with them for 60 years. It just depends on the relationship in a situation like that. But to avoid that kind of a complicated process to be indemnified for a loss, the best thing to do is to fully insure the property for what the value to replace that property would be at the going rate per square foot to build it, exactly how it stands. That's pretty much on principle kind of how it works. And you know what, I think because I'm absolutely no expert, I think I will reach out and try to get maybe a local insurer underwriter to come in and explain insurance. It'd be good to also get maybe someone to come in and talk about health insurance and some of the challenges that the insurer that they have with the cost of health care. I'm sure insurers will point at the healthcare sector and what it costs for care, and the healthcare sector will defend themselves and say, well, hey, this is what it costs. This is what my overheads are. This is, I got a staff in my office. I got to pay electricity like you. I got to restock this and that and da-da-da-da-da. So it goes. So maybe that, in the infinite wisdom of the two companies that merged, was the rationale for cooperating with each other and deciding on how they would come together and amalgamate. Number one, hopefully, to provide better service at a lower cost. But I don't know if that's the situation completely. As I said earlier, it's all about the numbers. And if they don't have sustainable numbers, because we have an aging population, if we've got an aging population, it means there are more people through attrition that aren't going to be contributing because they're retired. And once they retire, their insurance ceases. And so if they got full cover at a very good company and they retire, they're not going to be able to carry that same insurance because that premium is split between the company and the employee, the employer and the employer and the employee. But when you're not employed and you're retired, then your option is to go for either Future Care or what's the other one? I can't remember. It's out of my mind, senior moment. But you know what I'm saying, right? And they may not have the same benefits. Well, they won't, because it's going to be less, depending on what you can afford for individual cover. Because if you're working for a company, you'll have a group plan because everybody within the company will be contributing under that group plan. Now, still with that, there are caveats where, some people might just want the basic, or just basic dental care, let's say, included in the policy. Other people might say, no, I want to be able to get crowns, or I want to be able to get this and that and the other. And so it'll be a little more for that individual, but still in the group plan. So it is worthy if you're employed, especially if you're a young person, or anyone for that matter is still gainfully employed, to understand as much as you can about the insurance options that are available, because it's your choice at the end of the day. And also it's the employer's choice. Some employers will only offer HIP or future care because of the cost that's involved, that has a very significant impact on the bottom line of the company. So sometimes the company, not that they want to, but they have to, as prudent managers of the operation, make some tough decisions. Only because of the dictates of what the cost of the insurance coverage is for an individual, as far as health is concerned, that we're talking about now. And thus, the jury is still out on universal health care with respect to what are all of the policy decisions that will be made to benefit those of us that at some point in time in our lives may need to go to a doctor or to have a surgical procedure, etc. It's very, very important. And, notwithstanding the criticism that maybe Barack Obama would have gotten for not doing as much as people feel he may have been able to do if he had a mentality or attitude like Trump, utilizing executive orders where he didn't have to go through the United States Congress, meaning the House of Representatives and the Senate. He could have maybe done a bunch of other things for the benefit of the people. But he preferred to go by way of elected representatives of constituents who voted for people to act in their best interests and not just arbitrarily make a decision and say, well, this is going to be the law, which as the president, under certain circumstances, you can do in the United States of America through executive orders. And as soon as Trump went into power, boy, you couldn't keep up with the executive orders. And now he's given immunity and a big pass to all of those individuals that were convicted of the
Bermuda Live. Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe.